Are you spiritually bypassing? A talk with Unmani.
So, are you spiritually bypassing? Well, what is spiritual bypassing, first of all? When we hear these beautiful spiritual concepts and teachings, it is natural for the mind to try to grasp whatever is being spoken of. It's trying to understand, it's trying to do it, it's trying to bring it into your experience in order to try to help the human experience. So when there are uncomfortable sensations or challenging times, the mind naturally wants to help. And if there have been some beautiful insights, then it will record the story, the concepts or the ideas of those insights or the beautiful words that have been spoken, and it will try to use those words to help in those challenging times, which is a natural thing to do. This is the programming of the mind. This is the nature of the mind, that it tries to help the human experience. It tries to help this human survive in the world. It works together with this body to support an experience of comfort and ease and safety. So it doesn't do anything wrong. It is always going to be limited. The thinking, the mind will always be limited. It cannot understand true spirituality or the recognition of who you really are. It cannot understand awakening to the truth of life itself, because the thinking is always just a tool to be in the world. It is of the world. It's not that, it is not of the knowing of it. So it can never reach far back enough to grasp the background. It will always be playing in the foreground, in the experience, and it can never know the awareness of it. But it keeps trying. It keeps remembering the words and then regurgitating them later. So spiritual bypassing is a term that is used for when we use some of these beautiful spiritual concepts to help us deal with challenging times in our lives. And by doing so, we avoid feeling or confronting, facing those uncomfortable experiences or feelings, or dealing with, let's say, looking at certain beliefs or attitudes or identities that we are still buying into. And it can be a very challenging one to see through this spiritual bypassing mechanism, because it tends to feed an identity of someone who is spiritual, someone who has attained a certain state of spirituality. It might feed a kind of hobby or pastime, an interest that you have. It might feed your social circle and what you have to talk about, or what you read, or what you watch on the internet. And so we tend to not want to give up this identity of the spiritual one, or the one who's got it or knows. But if we are really deeply in love with the truth, we will be willing to investigate this one, even if it means that we have to lose who we have believed ourselves to be, or what we have believed ourselves to have attained. Because really recognizing who you are and resonating with the beautiful teachings and pointings to the truth of who you are, we have to recognize that the mind can't grasp it. And so when it tries to grasp it, anything that it remembers is not it. It's just not it. It's a memory. It's a concept. It's turned the words into a new belief system. Of course, some of the words can be useful in those times of trouble, but when they feed the identity, we have to be careful with this one, because that identity is there to fill a gap. Without that identity of being the spiritual one, or the one who has recognized something or attained something, then we are left with this question of, well, who am I now if I'm not that one? If I don't know anything, if I haven't attained anything, if I don't understand anything that has been heard from spiritual teachers, if I'm left with just nothing, then what? Then we have to face and feel everything that we have been putting off or denying or suppressing. And this can be uncomfortable. This can be frightening. But then we come back to that deeper longing. What do we most deeply long for? Is it just to hold on to a spiritual identity? Is it to just be someone special? Or is it to truly wake up out of all beliefs and identities, and to continually wake up, which means we never land in any particular identity. We are never the one who has attained anything. There is no such thing as being someone who's spiritual or enlightened or awakened. This is an identity, a story, an image, a dream. And without that, we are just here now with whatever is here in the experience, meeting it for what it is, and knowing that it doesn't ever mean anything about who you are. So if you have a beautiful recognition experience, a sense of expansion and opening your heart, or whatever it is, this doesn't mean anything about you. And if you feel confused, or there's a lot of thinking, or you're going through some uncomfortable experiences or emotions, this also doesn't mean that you are not spiritual or you're not free. So spiritual bypassing seems to feed this identity that keeps you separate. It keeps you as someone who is special or different, isolated from the rest of the world or the rest of life. It keeps you separate from the reality of whatever sensations or experiences are here. You use the beautiful concepts to kind of sidestep whatever might be a bit messy or a bit uncomfortable in life. And it can be very sneaky in the way we spiritually bypass, because it can seem like we are really recognizing the truth. We can speak all the right words, and this is a paradox, really. We have to see that actually who we are really is beyond all the human experience. It is untouched by it all. That is who you are always. But then there is also the human experience, and there you are absolutely touched. And there is no escape from that into that is beyond it. You are both simultaneously. So you cannot use that recognition of who you are as the awareness of it all in order to escape the human experience. This is a mind game. And eventually, life will in some way slap you awake out of that dream. It will inevitably bring some uncomfortable situation or some tragedy, some kind of hard slap in the way that can be very unexpected, to wake you up out of this bypassing of the reality of life. So don't wait for this kind of slap. Recognize for yourself what you're doing, if that's what you're doing. And it can be that we're all doing that to a certain degree, because as I said, it is very sneaky. And even if you think that you are not doing it very obviously, you may have landed in some kind of more hidden or more sneaky identity that thinks, yes, now I know. And this is still acting as a way of avoiding something in your life. So it's about continually losing who we think we are and free falling into the unknown, never landing in anything or anyone, and meeting life in its rawness, just the way it is, unprotected, vulnerable,